Welcome to Shelf Control. I'm Norm, and today I'm going to talk about secondhand stores, thrift stores, and some of the finds that I found this year, some of the treasures. So I'm quite lucky to have a number of used game sources around me that I visit on a regular basis, primarily looking for things that are a good deal. And I've found a couple.
Got my hands on a couple.
I also reached out to the manager of one of these stores, one of the larger ones, and she was nice enough to answer some questions. And so I figured I'd share some of those with you as well. So, going through the big question is they will offer, if it's not a consignment store, they will offer you cash or trade. And I asked what the basic breakdown of that was, and she said they would do 20 to 30% of what they expect to sell it for in cash, or 50% in trade. And so the trade value is actually what I kind of expected it to be, but I didn't really know what they would give you for the cash value. The times that I turned in some books and some old games that I wasn't playing anymore, the cash value was always a little bit lower than what I expected, but the trade value, they always gave me more than I expected for what I turned in.
Don't undervalue yourself.
But it's always been a pleasant experience. There has been reviews on their store site where people would complain about that the little bit that was offered them, and it was probably the cash. They probably wanted the money, and that was at the only 20 to 30% there. But that's understandable because the store is having to put out its own capital to buy those items, where with trade you're basically trading existing stock at a reduced rate, and it's not actual cash being taken out. So the one store whose manager I was talking to, they have a great selection of everything: electronics, books, board games, music, just comics, all kinds of stuff. And I was asking, how do they get most of their stock? And a lot of it comes from just the clients coming in to sell stuff or get trade. There are times that I noticed that they would have like a bunch of a single game that is commonly found at Target, and they would have a bunch of this game, but it must be someone who found like a bunch of them on clearance, snagged them up, and then brought them to see what they could get in cash for it. And that's why they have so much of the same stock. As to who tends to give them turn in their games, it's usually just people who are turning in stuff from their own selection. Maybe parents with kids who have turned in games that they got as gifts that they weren't interested in, or games that people have played and they're just not interested in anymore and just wanted to turn it around into something else. The quote that she gave me was, she sometimes chuckles when she sees games come in with a sliver of wrapping paper still attached. I always think to myself, some kid wants to tell grandma they're way too old for Candyland.
Thanks, Grandma.
I was talking to her about the methods that they use to value games. People will bring in huge tracts of land, lots of mixture of games and books and music and all kinds of stuff like that, and they have people just going through and checking everything, and a lot of the value is dependent on how much stock of that item they already have and what it is sold for in the past. If it's something that moves quickly, they'll price it higher, and if it's something that sits for a while, they'll price it lower. They do try to do a quick turnaround, and so there are some things that slip through the cracks that maybe the person doing the valuation of the stuff may not be that familiar with board games in this example, and not quite value it appropriately, and that's where we find a lot of the stuff like we've got here. So I guess this is a good time to start. I've got 5, 6 counting an honorable mention. I'll do the honorable mention now because it kind of fits with what I was talking about. I'm using the Isle of Skye as a placeholder for a lot of the different games like this. So this was a game that I saw on the shelf, and it was $16 for the game, which seemed like a fair price for a used game of this weight. And so I picked it up and was interested in it, but it's got a little bit of weight to it. And so the first thing that I do when I find something like this is I'll open it up and pull some of the stuff out, specifically looking for the rule books. And so in this case, I pull it out, and there were 2 rule books in here. One for Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King, which is the name of the game, and another one for Isle of Skye Journeyman, which is one of the expansions for Isle of Skye. And so while $16 might not be a great steal for Isle of Skye as a used game, $16 seemed fair, seemed like a good deal for the base game plus one of the expansions. And so this isn't as big a deal as some of the others that I will show, but I wanted to use this as an example of the people who are doing the valuation. If the manager that I spoke to, she hasn't gotten back to me as to whether or not if I'm allowed to include her name or the store. So, but I'll send her the link. And one of the things that she can pass on to her evaluators is look for the number of rule books, and that way you could tell if there's more than just the game itself in the box. Kind of tying along with that, just last week I went to one of the locations of this store, and they had Agricola, and they had it for $60, which seemed like a lot, but they only had the one copy there. It's the first time I'd ever seen it there. And when I pulled down the box, it was quite heavy. And so when I opened it up, it had plastic cases holding all the cards together, and all the cards were sleeved. And that piqued my curiosity. I was like, okay, I might be interested in this. And so I dug down looking for the rule book, and there wasn't one. And so I took the box and I flipped it over to the back, and some boxes have a component list listing everything that's in it. And it does say one rule book. So I'm like, okay, the rule book is missing. But then there was also saying, X number of player boards. And so I was like, well, when I was pulling stuff out looking for the rule book, I don't remember seeing any player boards. And so I opened it back up and looked through, and there weren't any player boards in there. And so this game that they were trying to sell for $60 was missing a rule book plus at least the player boards, and if not more components. And so I took it up to the counter and told them, hey, this is missing some components. You might want to have somebody check it through before you put it on the shelf, so somebody doesn't pay $60 for it and find out they can't play it. They do have a return policy, so if they'll take it back, no questions asked if there's something wrong with it or not. But they do limit the number of times you can do that in a year, so you don't use them as a public library. So it'd be better if somebody didn't spend the $60, get home and find out that they have a game they can't play, and then have to turn around and bring it back. So check for rule books on the inside, check for component lists on the back, and see if the things match up. So anyways, that's my honorable mention plus advice for people doing the valuation. I guess game number 5 could be considered a honorable mention as well, because I don't know that this is a value, but I found Twilight Imperium first edition on the shelf, and it was listed for $25, and the sticker said Twilight Imperium 3rd edition on it, which was weird to me. But so I was really interested in getting this game because I started my board game hobby after Catan with Twilight Imperium 3rd edition, as you normally do.
As you do.
So I was really curious to try the 1st edition and see how it had changed between 1st and 3rd. But then when I opened it up, it's got every expansion in here for 1st edition, plus all of the punch boards are not punched out. So this game has not been played. It's got some damage on the lid where it looks like things have been sitting on top of it, and I tried flattening it out. You can see my video on Does Frosthaven Replace All of These Games video to show how I dealt with some of the issues with this lid. But yeah, this is basically just going to be a display piece, collector's edition, because Twilight Imperium means something to me. Is 1st edition a steal at $25 plus all the expansions? I don't know. It's a value to me, and so I'm going to treasure that. And I'm going to set that over there so I don't set something on top of it and dent it some more. So along the same lines with that, game number 4 I'll say is Pitch Car. So let's see, 5, 4, game number 3. Let's call this number 3. Do I have that right? I don't know, we'll see. Pitch Car was not from the used bookstore, but instead it was from a consignment shop. And the interesting story with this one was I was in the consignment shop looking for something else, some furniture or some dishware for the kitchen. I can't remember what, but I don't go in there often, but I happened to be in there this day, and I saw a Pitch Car, and they had it listed for $70, which is about the right price. If you were to buy this new from their website, that's about the right price plus shipping. But I don't go to used stores looking for the right price for a new product. So I looked at the sticker that was on it, and it had a purple band around it, and it was one of those stores that has a sign up with all the colored stickers that they have, and depending on how long the product's been there, they'll have differing percent off the sticker price. So the longer something sits there, the purple will move from the top down to the bottom, and I think the very bottom was 65% off, something like that. And when I looked at where purple was on the list, it was at the very top. So it was 100% of the sticker price was what you'd have to pay. And so I just let it sit there. It was in the kids section of the store. It's like we'll see if it gets to a price that that I'm happy with, and I was having to go through the mental struggle of, when do I pull the trigger on this? Do I wait until it's just 25% off of that price? 50, 60? Do I wait till the end, the 65? What do I do? So I hadn't come up with the price that I was actually willing to buy this at. And I would go into the store and I would look up at the card, and it would say purple was still 100%. And I would look on the shelf and it would still be sitting there. And so it was probably a month and a half of going into this store once a week, because it was right next to the used bookstore that I frequent. And purple was always at the top of the list, and this was always in stock. And so when after a month and a half of that, I'm like walking up and I look up at the sheet, and it just catches my eye that a lavender sticker was at the 65% off. And I was like, let me go back to the shelf and look. And the purple sticker was a little bit lighter than the purple sticker up on the thing. So I took this up to the counter and asked the lady, like, is this purple or is this lavender? And she said it was lavender, and she rung it up for $24. And I was like, excellent, I'll buy it. And so I got Pitt's car for $24, and that seemed like a great price for me for this. It's quite heavy because the pieces are wood, and it's quite a substantial game. I understand why it costs as much as it does, but it's just a simple dexterity flick game where you're flicking the cars around the track and trying to keep them on. And that wasn't worth the 70 some dollars for me, but it was definitely worth the 24. The funny thing is, how long was this at the 65% off? Was lavender at the bottom of the list a month and a half before I bought this? And I was just lucky that nobody else came in and picked it up. I don't know. This, I'll say second to last game, because I have just one more after this. And this is really these six games all together. This is the Unlock series. And these are the big boxes that contain 3 of the individual smaller boxes collected together. And this is another case where it may just be that they didn't understand quite what they had, because I've been curious about the Unlock series, because I like the fact that you don't destroy the game as you're playing through it. So if you're not familiar, Unlock is like an escape room kind of game, but it uses cards. And if you have like a cabinet and a key, they'll have numbers on them, and you add those numbers together and go look in the deck for that number. And if that number's there, you flip it over and read it, and it'll have what's in that cabinet. If those numbers don't add together, then that key doesn't go with that cabinet, and so you have to find somewhere else to use that key. And what's neat about that is you don't have to cut anything, you don't fold anything, you don't destroy the game. And so when you're done, you can give it to somebody else, and they can play through it, because once you've solved it, you know the tricks, and there's no point in playing it again. And so I was always interested in trying this. And the used bookstore always had the individual tiny boxes, and they'd go for like $10 to $12, which is only a couple dollars cheaper than what you can get them new. And so I never pulled the trigger on getting any of them. But then I found one. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was this one. Excuse me. I saw this one at the used place, and it was $9.99. And so I picked it up. I figured $9.99 for 3 uh, unlock escape rooms was a good deal, worth trying, because that's like 333 repeating.
3 repeating, of course.
For each module. And so I picked it up, and we played it some, and it's a fun little evening. We'll be reviewing the Unlock series once we start looking into some of these others as well. But so I picked that up, and then a little while later, I saw at another one of their locations, they had these 5 for $9.99 each. And so I checked to make sure that none of these were the same one that I had, and they weren't. So I've got 6 different ones of these that I paid $10 each for. And I don't know if maybe they just didn't realize when they were looking into the computer that Unlock has the single scenarios, but they also have the boxes that contain all 3, and priced it as if it was the single ones. I'm not sure what happened with those, but I picked them up, and it seems like we've got a few evenings of some puzzle solving to do, and we'll talk about that when we get those done. So the last one I want to talk about here is probably the biggest find I found at these places, and I'm gonna have to get up to pick this up. I've got this over here at the side, but it's the Smash Up Bigger Geekier box. Let's get my face in here. I don't know why.
I want to see that.
But I'll get my face in here. So we got the Smash Up Big Box. I saw this. This was sitting at the very top of the shelf, and I was curious to see what they were selling this for, because I think you can probably find it now some places for like $30, but at the time these big boxes were expensive, especially expensive to ship, because even though they're empty, they're still big. And when I slid it over, it had a sticker on it saying $30, which seemed like a good price. That's about the price that you can find it now online, and that's without shipping. And it's also the price that they were selling the base game for. But I noticed when I shifted it over to look at the price, this thing weighs a ton. I don't know exactly how much this weighs. I don't have my scale down here, but it was heavy. It still is heavy. And normally when I'm at one of these used places, I'll take it over to a counter off to the side, open it up, count through everything to make sure it's there, because I'd rather know if it's incomplete before I get it home. But in this case, with it being this heavy, I was like, I don't want to open this up and try to go through everything. I just left it closed. For all I knew, it could have been filled with rocks. But for $30, I was willing to try it. And if I opened it up and it was full of rocks, if I didn't want to keep the rocks, I'd return it.
I don't want any rocks.
So anyways, I get it home and I open it up, and it is full of...
It's full of creatures. It's full of demons.
Cards. Just packed full of cards. And so when I opened it up and was looking at the inside, it's got the one complete rule book in here. And then just on a whim, I picked up this insert that's in here that holds all the tokens, and it's got all of these expansion rule books in here. Let's see, we got the base game, Marvel and Munchkin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these other expansions in here. Before coming in here to make this video, I just went on Board Game Geek and looked them all up and added together the smallest price that I could find for each of these, and even with the smallest price on eBay or whatever was listed on Board Game Geek, this is over $250 of Smash Up. Smash Up was on my radar. It seems like a fun idea of taking two different decks and smashing them together and playing against somebody else who smashed together two decks. But I had found at the used bookstore two of the smaller expansions. I think it was the Cthulhu and the Pretty Princess or something like that. There was the two different ones for like $3 each, and I figured that was a cheap way to get in and try it. But it may have just been that those two together were not good introductions to the game, because the little bit that I played it was not fun no matter how you combined those. And so it was one of those things where it's like, I haven't written off the game, but I'm not going to play it with those factions that I got. And so when I found a $30 complete set of Smash Up, I think it's missing the sheep expansion, which was a promo, I think, and probably a couple newer ones if they came out with that. I don't know how many they got all together, but it seems like there's enough here to actually play it or play around with it and see if it's good and worth keeping. And if it's not worth keeping, could probably get more than the $30 I paid for this. And so this is another case, just like with the Isle of Skye. If these people were familiar with this game, they might know, okay, this seems heavier than a 30 game normally should. Let me look under the insert, see if there's anything hiding under there. And then you have all those rule books, and then you know, okay, this is not the base game of Smash Up that the computer says is selling for $30. This is something more. So anyways, that's the finds that I found so far this year. If I find some more treasures, I'll make a video about it. I really doubt I'll find one quite as much of a value as this big box. I think this is a once in a lifetime thing. But the fact that these treasures do get found, it does keep me going back and looking for more, and then picking up some other stuff, picking up some books or some comics or some music, things like that while I'm there, if some of those catch my eye. So I did ask her if they purposely put these little gems out there in order to keep people like me coming back, and she denied my conspiracy theory. But it does, their little accidents do encourage me to keep going back and looking for more. So anyways, if you are watching this, the lady who answered my questions for me, I really appreciate it. If you want to share this with your employees so they can learn to value them a little bit more, because not only would it give your stores more money, it would actually make the people turning the stuff in much happier. I don't know what the story is on this. It may have been that whoever had gotten this had no idea that it was $250 worth of stuff and just sold it for whatever they could get it for. But it would be nice if the person who had this got more than, if they got $15 in trade. That doesn't seem worth it. But So if you want to share this so your employees can follow some of these tips to help recognize what they've got, that'd be great. But please don't get so good that these gems stop finding their way onto the shelf, because that would be very discouraging. So to the rest of you, if you enjoy this video, please comment with any stores, thrift finds that you may have found. Do you have stores nearby that you frequent, and have you found gems like this?
Gems. Gems are truly outrageous.
So we're going to be doing videos reviewing games in our collection more. We're going to be looking at these and deciding if we want to keep these. Just because they're good deals doesn't mean that we necessarily want to keep them. And so if you want to follow along as we go through that, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and if you think this is something other people would enjoy, please share it. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.